Hey everyone, welcome back to Underreported Stories, where I cover the news that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News fail to report on or don't report on enough. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. I feel like I got gypped this week. I worked all day Monday, and I feel like a lot of people got Veterans Day off. And many deservedly so, by the way. Happy belated Veterans Day to all who serve and watch this show. I am very, very thankful for each and every one of you. But I just didn't get the day off, so whatever. I'm maybe grumpy. I'm jealous. That's really what I am. I'm a jealous wench right now, for real. But I was doing a little deep dive on our numbers, and I realized we've got some new friends to the channel, so wanted to kind of break down what it's like to be around here. So if you're new, welcome. So happy you're here. Here's how the channel kind of operates. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I put out shows that are about 8 to 15 minutes long, usually, and they cover about a single story. Might be a blog, might be a street interview, might be a clip from the longer show. It's just kind of a short down, like a shorter version of Underreported Stories. You can watch that as watch only YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. And then what we're doing right now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do a much longer show where we talk about news of the week, my hot takes, 5 underreported stories of the week, which is kind of what I got known for on social media that led me to do this for a living. And we'll play some funny segments that you'll catch on, You'll figure it out as you kind of get to know the show. We have some funny ones. Random racism, is it real or is it satire? You'll catch on, it's a good time. And you can watch this show, everywhere I listed above, plus Apple and Spotify as a podcast. So welcome to the channel. Super happy to have you. Now you're all caught up. But let's get the show kicked off by talking about this crazy theory being floated by Democrats that they're essentially advocating for Joe Biden to give the ultimate participation trophy and step down so that Kamala Harris can be the first female president. So I was looking at this old tweet. It's an old tweet new tweet from Kamala's old communications director. And this man said that we're asking Biden to step down and putting Kamala and installing her as the first female president of the United States is good because it would help her or keep her from presiding over the certification of the election. She lost. Now, in case you didn't know this, on January 6th, it is contingent on the vice president. Remember, this happened with Mike Pence on January 6th of 2021. It is contingent on the vice president to certify the election results. And the real ouchie here is that Kamala lost the election, but she has to then certify the election that she lost. So the argument here is that what I take from the argument, I should say, is that Kamala's feelings are going to be hurt. So we don't want to hurt Kamala's feelings. So we should install her as the president, specifically because Biden can't do his job anymore. Like, congratulations. We've all known this. Maybe I am in favor of Kamala being in this position because at least someone, I wouldn't say competent, that's not fair, but at least someone alive could do it. It's less of a weekend at burnt, not completely gone, but less, right? But this is the whole argument from this individual. Again, this person is a former Kamala employee. But let me just unload here because I have a couple thoughts about this. First off, 2 Democrats. They just lost an election because they were hyper-focused on social issues like what the president looks like as opposed to what the president will actually do. So I don't think that this is a winning message to just delete Biden and install Kamala in the coming, how long do we even have? Like 2.5 months, 3 months max? For what reason? I mean, the American people have voted so many times. They voted against Kamala in the Democratic primary in 2019. They didn't ever vote for her to be the nominee for the Democrats, and they didn't vote for her to be president. So it's a resounding no from the people. So installing Kamala as the first female president, it doesn't feel right. That we don't want her representing us. No. I'm actually better off with Biden. I actually think maybe we are better off with Biden. Let me know in the comments. Would you rather, if you had to pick today, someone has to be president, would you rather the doddering old fool has no idea what's going on be there, kind of the enemy we know, or do you want to install Kamala? Let me know in the comments. Very fascinated. Okay, my second point here. This first female president. Now, I know we make fun of the left a lot, and I first one to raise my hand and say I do this all the time. We love to make fun of the left for these like first things, because they'll be like, first Latin American from the state of Illinois to become a senator. And it's like, oh, come on, give me a break. These firsts are getting a little ridiculous. However, I don't feel that way about first female president. That is going to be a historical first. It's a big deal, right? Stealing that title from a woman who actually not only earned the nomination, earned the primary nomination, earned the nomination to the party, and then won the election. Stealing that from a woman who actually earned it is weenie behavior. What it tells me, though, is that Democrats are on their toes. They're so desperate for the titles and the accolades that are associated with DEI that they're starting to realize at the same time, I think, with the election of Trump in these last couple of weeks, they're having this kumbaya session and they're kind of realizing that Republicans are not the sexist pigs that CNN makes them out to be, and that Republicans might actually nominate and fill the first female president spot, and that would just crush them so deeply. So they're trying to get ahead of what they believe to be inevitable and install Kamala Harris as the first female president so that they can kind of get those DEI accolades that they so desperately want. Let me know if you agree. I think that is totally the mentality. It's all based out of fear, not based out of any foresight or fairness by any stretch of the means. But my final point to this is that Kamala is strong enough to preside over the certification of the election she lost. And if that is true, then I have never been so happy that she lost. She shouldn't even be our vice president if she can't handle doing her job. If she cannot emotionally handle doing her job because it'll make her feel good, oh, poor Kamala, how the hell are we supposed to trust her with our country, with foreign diplomacy? You're telling me that woman is going to walk up to Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin and scare them? She's too sad to even certify the election. Oh my gosh. Do you think that making tough decisions makes you feel good all the time? No. That's why we lead by strength. It's not why we lead by all emotions. I'm talking to Kamala like she's a baby, because she kind of is. Clearly. But anyway, I just think that it's a relief for so many reasons, but when you really unpack this tweet, which is what I did over the past, 5, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, I don't know how long we've been talking about this, it really just showcases that this wasn't sexism, this wasn't racism driving this. You can make so many legitimate critiques of this woman, and it's palpable that she's just needs to step out of politics altogether. I also personally, I don't think that there's any chance that this is going to happen. I don't think Biden is going to step down so Kamala can feel better. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into our docket. So here's what we have on the agenda for Underreported Stories today. Couple of stories. We have a Kamala supporter attacking a Trump supporter because the Trump supporter is, quote, brown. Big yikes. Okay. We also have a Democratic mayor who was indicted, plus a little development on the FEMA workers who were told to avoid houses with Trump signs. I got a little development that you probably haven't seen on the mainstream media yet. We'll get into that and more. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 underreported stories that you need to know. Today's show is brought to you by Based, my merch line. If you didn't know this already, I'm an independent creator, and the best way to support this show is by purchasing my merch line that represents your views. Instead of just asking you guys for donations to fund my independent journalism, my business partner and I created a line of merch called Based Apparel. Based means you are the opposite of woke. It means you're based in logic, you're based in truth, you're based in facts. You get it. Head over to basedinlogic.com to check out our latest apparel. My personal favorite right now is the conspiracy theorist hat. And remember, when you buy merch, you are directly supporting me and this show. And when you get your apparel, please be sure to tag me on Instagram so I can repost you. An 82-year-old woman was arrested Monday for a suspected hate crime and assault charges after reportedly punching a woman because she's brown and pro-Trump. This 82-year-old woman, she is white. You're going to see her in video footage. And she attacks two women, one of whom is black and the other is multiracial. Lucky for us, like I alluded to, there is police body cam footage of this encounter. So I'm going to watch it. For those in the listening audience, you'll still be able to hear. So we're going to listen/watch and kind of break all of this down.
So what's going on? Let's stay on the sidewalk so we don't get
Okay. Here's what happened. I approached her and I said, I'm trying to understand why you're supporting Trump.
Okay, so immediately we know that this is the 82-year-old individual who was charged with a hate crime and assault. For those in the listening audience, they're on a street corner and there's a bunch of people with Trump flags. It says like Trump 2024, Trump fans, etc. And you can see this woman, she's got a Kamala Walls sticker on her, or button on her puffer vest, and she's sitting there trying to explain to the police officer what happened.
And then I said, you're brown skinned. What do you think's going to happen to you?
Oh my gosh, I have to stop it, sorry. That is so cringeworthy. It's so funny that the party who is so against racism, allegedly, is so close-minded that it would tell, a member of the party would tell a woman that because she is brown-skinned, she's too dumb to understand what's going to happen to her. Like, that is the soft bigotry of low expectations that we have seen time and time again of the Democratic Party. We see it writ large. It's basically affirmative action stated out loud. But the fact that this woman can't even realize how racist she's being while trying to say that she's some sort of savior of racism is absurd.
Why would you say something like that?
Because she has brown skin. And that's what the racists are.
Okay, I'm not talking politics with you. I want to know, did you put your hand on somebody?
I put my hand up on her chin like that. Just like I did to you.
You can't.
Oh, she literally admits to it. I don't know what I thought I was going to see. I thought I was going to see like kind of more of a meltdown from this woman. She straight up admits that she hit this other woman. And the police officer is like, you can't do that.
I realize that.
Okay,
Even if somebody...
do you know her? Are you... Okay, are you by yourself?
I'm by myself.
You're not taking that in.
I am taking it in, but that doesn't give somebody an excuse to put their hands on somebody else.
No, but I was behind her and over her and hit her face, and it provoked her.
Oh my gosh. So you can't really see this, and I am going to stop the audio because it's just so low quality. So I'm really sorry if you're in the listening audience. It's a little bit harder to hear. But this woman is arguing that the Trump supporters are in the area, and that's triggering to these people, and they should be able to go up and talk. And the whole time, this woman looks like she's on the verge of tears the whole time, just like quintessential choking back tears, crying literally crying liberal, because she's not getting her way in whatever way, shape, or form. And I'm going to move forward a little because I do believe they talk to the individual who was hit. Let's see. I think this might be it. Let's give it a shot.
And told us about her abortion story.
The old lady?
No, the young
girl
one,
with
red hair.
Okay.
She came up from the backside and started accusing her of being a person of color and should not be supporting Trump. And, I mean, she stepped in the face.
All right, so the story is corroborated by another woman. This girl is clearly pro-Trump. She's got a whole Make America Great Again hoodie on, saying and corroborating the story that the hate crime assailant even told the Edmonds Police Department, saying, you know, she is getting up in people's faces and asking black people and brown people why they are voting for Trump because of their skin color. Like, it's so racist.
She came to get me, and she actually stepped up on the podium and grabbed me. I turned around to acknowledge her, and that lady was right up on us.
So she got up in your guys' face.
Yes, exactly.
So she initiated.
Yes, she did.
I saw it happen too. I was across the street.
Okay, I'll talk to you in a second. Hi.
Okay, so then you have a black woman, or at least multiracial woman. I can't tell. I honestly can't. The sun's also glaring on her face, so it's difficult to tell. But she's got a shirt that says pro-God, pro-gun, I can't read the second one. Pro-life for Trump. Sorry, I had to move it a little bit just to be able to hear it or read it properly. But let's see what she has to say.
So she came up to me and she read my shirt and she said, you know that God doesn't like guns. And I said, well, you know, I'm not voting for Trump to be my pastor. And then she says, and you should know better.
Did she like get up in your face?
Oh yeah.
Like how
Yeah,
close
okay,
was
so she
she?
was right there.
Okay.
And then she said, you should know better. I said, why? Because I'm my skin color? I said, you're a racist. And then she came up and she pushed me.
Okay.
And then she hit me in my freaking chin.
Like,
Oh my gosh, again, the story being corroborated a third time. Wild, absolutely wild. This is so inappropriate. I do not care what your age is or what your politics is. You do not go up to people because of their skin color and tell them that they're stupid for voting the way they want to vote. They're allowed to vote the way they want to vote. I'll never understand this real push to talk down to people. Oh my gosh, just like let people vote the way they want to vote. Idiots want to vote how idiots want to vote. Smart people want to vote how smart people want to vote. Like, just let people vote. It is not contingent on you to decide that. It's supposed to be a lot more personal than this, but we've really shied away from that in American culture. And I don't know, let me know in the comments whether you think that's good or whether it's bad. Sound off. I'm interested to hear, but I cannot believe that somebody would go up to this woman and shove her and then claim to not be a racist while actively being a racist. Like, I have no other thoughts. Sound off with yours. All right, moving on to our next story. This story got completely buried in election week news. A Mississippi district attorney has been indicted on federal bribery charges. District Attorney Jody Owens. Jody is a man, biological man, okay? And so Jody, the district attorney, and the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, both Democrats, accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars from FBI informants posing as real estate developers. And these real estate developers were hoping, again, they're FBI informants, but they were going to the district attorney as well as the mayor of Jackson and saying they wanted government officials to influence and expedite their projects. Yes, this is very Eric Adams coded. If you've followed at all the saga of Eric Adams going up in flames over alleged corruption and alleged acceptance of money from the Turkish government to do their bidding, this is very similar. Reporting coming from the Washington Free Beacon. Now, if you're in the viewing audience, you can see this is Jody Owens and this is Chokwe Antar Lumumba. Lumumba. I like it. I really like that last name, actually. I had to practice off air how to say it because I was like, I can't keep effing up these names. But anyway, for the listening audience, they're both African American. I'm going to anticipate they could be multiracial. I can't really tell. Anyway, these two have been notably endorsed and backed by Democratic megadonor George Soros, a name you've come to know and loathe, as well as Senator Bernie Sanders. And they're both incredibly progressive. And the Justice Department has alleged that Jody and Lumumba have accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. According to prosecutors, Owens solicited $115,000 in bribes from the informants and directed them to pay bribes to Lumumba as well. The mayor accepted $50,000 in bribes in exchange for, quote, exerting his influence and taking official action relating to the developer's proposed project in downtown Jackson. It is also notable that these two are facing up to 20 years in prison if convicted. They pleaded not guilty on Thursday. Now, of course, my first thought went to, is this political? Because there's a lot of infighting right now between Democrats and what you would call the traditional Democratic old dogs or blue dogs and the more progressive wing of the party. This is the more progressive wing of the party, and we've seen political warfare, political lawfare exerted against Biden's political enemies, and I'm super curious whether you guys think that this would go to the extent of political lawfare. Now, I think personally, crime is just crime. When you see two individuals soliciting donations or soliciting bribes, they're not donations, soliciting bribes from individuals trying to get business done, I think it's pretty clear cut. It's a pretty simple case. I don't think necessarily it's an indictment on Biden's lawfare. I think you could actually make the argument way better for Eric Adams than you could for this scenario. But I am open-minded to all of this. I don't want to be closed off. very well could be the Biden administration's final attempt to get some of these prosecutors that are really progressive out for the future. Mind you, I don't necessarily think that Democrats need assistance in booting out the left-wing, far-left progressives. And I say that because the Free Beacon aptly noted that Soros-backed prosecutors have been recalled and booted out of office by voters. Like, it doesn't take the FBI to come in and boot these people out. People are doing it all on their own, right? So examples of that would be Alameda County, California, which is part of Oakland. They recalled their DA, Pam Price, who is a psycho left-winger. Los Angeles recalled George Cascone, lost in a landslide to a former prosecutor named Nathaniel Hochman. There's a complete rebuke of these far-left prosecutors that in my head, I'm like, the voters are doing it for you. Why put your political stance on the line if you knew that the voters were going to take you out? But then at the same time, this article, this story, the indictment came out on November 8th, which was just 2 days after the election, or was 3 days after the election. So this is, something that was in the works for a while. But I'm curious, do we think that this is done by the Biden administration, or was this something that, just typical FBI doings in order to get the bad guy? You guys let me know in the comments. Moving on to our next story, the Russia-Ukraine war is steaming up, but not in the way you would think, because part of the war, I would call them escalation tactics right now. Part of the war, escalation tactics, is that North Korea has deployed soldiers to Russia to fight Ukraine. And now North Korean men have gotten access to the internet, which they don't have in their home country, and they immediately used it to start watching pornography. Reporting coming from the Daily Caller shows that North Korean soldiers who have been deployed to Russia are getting unfettered access to the internet and are using it to watch porn. The Pentagon estimates that up to 10,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed to Russia in recent weeks, as the two countries obviously have a military alliance that is growing. Typically, North Korean soldiers and all civilians who live in North Korea have strictly restricted or almost zero access to the internet. But these troops who have been deployed to Russia now have access to the internet, and they're choosing to watch porn with it. This is maybe one of the most just funny things I've seen. I know it's awful. I really do. But there are just some things that are universal about humanity. And the article gets very serious, kind of asking, what is Pyongyang's goal? Or is it Pyongyang? No, it's Pyongyang's goal in sending in North Korean troops to Russia. It's obvious to me. I don't think it takes a nuclear scientist or Elon Musk to figure out what is going on here. Russia and North Korea are incredibly close. Of course, Russia is not doing as well as they had anticipated in this war. They didn't think that Ukraine would fight back, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that logistically it makes a lot of sense that North Korea would be sending in troops to kind of bolster that manpower. But I don't know if North Korea necessarily took the precautions that they thought they would need to take in order to save their youth and save their men. It's very interesting. If you watch the Olympics, for instance, the North Koreans have a very strict set of rules for going out into the real world. I don't think they get access to the things that other contestants get access to. It's very, very different. Therefore, I am kind of shocked that these men just have unfettered access in Russia, unless, of course, sadly, this is just crossing my mind now, Putin and Kim Jong-un maybe don't anticipate these men coming back, which is a really sad thought. No matter who they are, it's sad to think of that. But it's also just sad to think of people getting addicted to anything. And this whole conversation, this whole story was hearkening me back to a really great, we'll call it corn, we'll continue to call it corn debate that I was having with some of my conservative girlfriends. We were debating about a few weeks ago whether it's the government's job to regulate or ban corn in America. And I'm so interested to hear your guys' thoughts, because in my head, I was like, it is a moral bad. I believe that with my whole heart. I don't think that people should be utilizing it. I think it's sinful, lustful, all the things. But there are liberals out there at the same time who believe that hate speech is morally bad, and they believe that with their whole heart. So my question was, where's the line on what we get to deem morally bad and who gets to decide that? I don't think the government should be deciding what is morally reprehensible and what isn't, because I've learned from being around big government for long enough that it is just contingent on who is in the White House or who is in control of Congress, right? My question for you is, should the government be involved in that regulation? And where is the line between this being a culture problem and a government problem? Conservatives do have a tendency, especially in the MAGA revolution that we're seeing, to hope that government will optimize and fix their problems. And I think the truth of the matter is that the government can absolutely be shrunken to get out of your problems, but they cannot always fix your problems. And I think when it comes to pornography, whatever you want to call it, we need to fix that one on our own. I don't know if regulating that out of the system of Americans is actually going to work. You would need a complete all-out ban, zero tolerance. And I don't see that happening without a good fight or pushback from the porn industry, especially because there is, unfortunately, a big desire. But let me know where you stand on this logically, morally, but also like how you would actually see an implementation of a porn ban. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Today's show is sponsored by Freedom 2.0. What's in your water? If it's not Freedom 2.0, it might be time to reconsider. Freedom 2.0's award-winning water goes beyond the bottle with an 8-step filtration process that includes reverse osmosis, UV light treatment, and an infusion of 432 hertz, the body's natural healing frequency. It's not just about hydration, it's about providing your body with clean, pure energy, free from the sugars and additives that other brands like to sneak in. Why settle for anything less than the best? Freedom 2.0 is hydration redefined. Ready to make the switch? Click the link in the show notes and elevate your hydration game today. Okay, let's move on to our next story. I'll say anticipated that the college kids were going to be very unwell after the election, but oh my gosh, these kids are acting like a bunch of fucking weenies, okay? The alleged most elite universities in the nation are having struggle sessions for adult college students who cannot process their emotions about a goddamn election. Oh, I'm trying not to say that. GD. I shouldn't even say GD. Oh, I'm sorry. Working on my language on the podcast. Not easy. Anyway, professors at, I believe it's, Columbia, they canceled class and gave their students extensions on their homework and midterms. And that is easily the most mild example. The Free Beacon did kind of a compilation of all these elite universities who are going on, I don't even know, I would call them bitch fits. Oh, again with the language, but it's true, they are bitch fits. What else am I supposed to call them? But the Free Beacon did a whole compilation. Let's look at that. Okay, these are all the different schools and their litany of crybaby sessions. This individual, this is a psychology professor at Barnard College, which is associated with Columbia University, said, "Dear class, I've decided to cancel our class today. The current events would make it difficult to concentrate on factorial ANOVA." No idea what that is, not gonna lie to you. "And although I had planned an alternative lecture on modern polling methods and their blind spots, it feels a bit tone deaf to deliver it today." What about that feels tone deaf? Actually, I'm reading that, and I actually was in college in political science during the 2016 election, and I specifically remember having one professor who I think he was liberal, but he was really a good professor. Like, he was very sympathetic to both sides, and he did a really good job managing everything. And when Trump won, we did a whole lecture about polling methods and their blind spots, and it was a very fascinating, insightful. You only get to live through it once. Why would you not take the opportunity to teach students about polling blind spots that led them to probably be distraught about the election results? Why that is a blind spot is beyond me for today. I can't understand that. I think it's dumb beyond compare. The Harvard Crimson also reported that Harvard University professors canceled classes, made quizzes optional, and stress-baked several pans of lemon bars to share. All right, I'm not gonna lie, that I'm a simp for a lemon bar. Like, I'd be getting out of class and eating lemon bars too, I guess. But this is a economics lecturer named Maxim Boyko who wrote in a Wednesday email to students, quote, "Feel free to take time off if needed. Many in our community are sleep deprived." Yeah, because you willingly stayed up to watch the election. Come on, give me a break. Again, grieving for glass ceilings that weren't shattered, fearful for the future or embarrassed to face our international colleagues. I stress-baked several pans of lemon bars to share. I'm sorry, let's go through this slowly. Okay, sleep deprived. Same. You get up and you work. Welcome to the real world, you little ninnies. Grieving for glass ceilings that weren't shattered. You don't always get your way. Stop being a little bitch. Fearful of the future or embarrassed to face our international colleagues. Congrats, universities. You have fearmongered your kids so much, or these aren't kids, these are adults. You fearmongered the adults so much that they're too afraid to go to class and they have to stress bake in order to get through. Oh my gosh. This is also, there's tissues in every class. This is my personal favorite. Again, it kind of harks back to this idea that we need to take time off to talk about the subjects that are most interesting during this season. A Northwestern University political science professor canceled class on public opinion and voting behavior. You know what would be good to talk about following the loss of Kamala when the poll showed it was close and then that never happened? Public opinion and voting behavior. That would be interesting. Here's the email. It says, please note, class will not meet today as we process our responses to the election results. Immediately engaging in discussion in a formal class setting, even on the relatively lighter topic of pop culture and politics, may not be possible for all of us individually or productive for us collectively. Oh my gosh, you need to do a better job as a professor if you cannot have insightful and thoughtful or productive conversations in class. Tell everybody to calm down, okay? And have a productive conversation. That's what you're in school for. Not to win people. You're not going to change the results of the election by bitching in class. Just make it clear. We need strong leaders. I think that's what it is. I think that's what irks me. We need strong leaders. And these professors are not strong leaders. She goes on to say, I'm just assuming it's a she because she's just such a weenie, but he could be a he. Please take some time today to focus on what you need. Taking time alone in stillness, time alone walking or moving, venting with others, celebrating with others, consuming more news, turning off the news, and I will see you Monday. We'll begin our study of media and public opinion. You're still going to have to talk about it. Like, did she think about that? I'm sorry, I'm just assuming it's a she. Did this person actually not think? Obviously, there was going to be some sort of backlash. To like, people are still going to have their thoughts a week later. Now, I will grant, maybe they won't be as emotional when you've had a couple days to process, but they're still going to be there. And when you get heated in front of a classmate, like that is still going to be prevalent, whether it's the day after the election or the Monday after the election. But anyway, this is another text message about moving exams. I really want to get to another canceled class. Okay, here's where I want to get. Several universities, including MIT, guys, this is supposed to be one of the most highly advanced universities in our country, sent out an email about post-election stress. It reads, while we can't control the outcome of the election after the final votes are counted, we can learn to effectively cope with our emotional response. Yeah, by not being so triggered all the damn time. Join our post-election virtual workshop to gain information, strategies, and resources. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Actually, maybe I'm in favor of it. I would title it differently. Learn to not be a weenie 101 with Chrissy Clark. And it would just be me saying, stop being such a pussy. But I don't think that would fly at MIT. But I can't believe this stuff flies at MIT because they're having these wellness sessions. Northwestern has one, wellness sessions with puzzles, games, and snacks for students. Oh my gosh. This is the Center for Cultural Awareness. And they have the rights to access healthcare and freedom to express their gender and religious identities and the safeguards of this area. This is at Duke University. This is at Yale University. This is taking place all over the most elite universities. And probably my favorite one, Georgetown University, the McCourt School of Public Policy, one of the most elite universities in the world for diplomats and policymakers. The students spent their day playing with Legos, coloring, and drinking milk and cookies. Oh my gosh. These kids sound like bigger babies than Kamala when she has to certify the election on January 6th. All right, let's get to our final story of the day. A FEMA official was fired after allegedly telling workers to avoid Florida homes with Trump signs. This has been kind of everywhere on the news, but the update, the underreported aspect of this, is that FEMA official went on a podcast and claimed that it was not her idea to avoid houses with Trump signs. In fact, these were instructions, she claims, that were given to her from on high, and that FEMA workers in the Carolinas as well as Florida were given these same instructions. So let's break this all down. Let's start with, if you haven't heard the story, let me run it through you real quick. Okay, reporting from the New York Post shows that FEMA supervisors were accused of ordering her subordinates to skip Florida homes that had Trump campaign signs. She was then fired. Her name was Marnie Washington. This is what she looked like in the listening audience. She's a Black woman. She doesn't look, I mean, nothing about her seems like outwardly crazy, but this is outwardly crazy. This is a text that was sent to Crew 33, 13 participants, so 13 FEMA individuals. Say this is a text that is allegedly from Marnie, and it says, implement best practices. Not one, probably no one. No one goes anywhere alone. Avoid homes advertising Trump. Practice de-escalation and preventative measures. And then a bunch of other ones like take water breaks and don't drink a lot of coffee, etc. Now, these were areas that were ravaged by hurricanes. You're talking about Helene, Milton, etc. The fact that individuals in FEMA took this and then acted on it is so disgusting that, of course, people were jumping on the story left and right. But the problem is that sometimes, even in conservative media, the story is so good that we just bounce onto or pounce onto. Oh my gosh, am I saying Republicans pounced? But it's kind of true. They've pounced on this story about this one individual worker has, allegedly just, how do I put this, bypassed the whole system that FEMA has in place. And she put this in because she is anti-Trump. And we can tell that because in her social media, she loves to talk about slavery and the ramifications of slavery. And we just kind of wrote the story for ourselves without asking her or getting a response. And then the response came. So this woman is now proclaiming her innocence and saying that this is not an isolated incident of her political prejudice, and she shouldn't have been fired for this, because this is actually something that FEMA workers were told across the nation. And so, no, I am not sympathetic for her, because in my mind, I'm like, you can still see that and see that that's absurd and not tell your crew of 13 people to do that. But at the same time, if these are the instructions you're being told and it is your job to lead, and you don't feel too bad for those Trumps, oh my gosh, is it all entirely her fault? Let's watch the clip and decide to get there.
Stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage.
So her argument here is that this is a de-escalation tactic from on high, and that individuals in the community who are Trump supporters are anti-FEMA, and therefore they shouldn't get the help because for whatever reason, these Trump supporters are particularly hostile towards the workers. Now, I can be sympathetic of the idea that maybe some of the people who have Trump signs in front of their house are also not particularly nice people, and they have a prejudice against FEMA workers, and they're pissed off. I'm okay with admitting that. However, to say writ large that it is policy to avoid Trump signs, that's where I find it problematic, because each individual cannot be pinned to some other individual with the same signs actions. That's not fair. That's just not fair.
FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas.
So what FEMA is doing is they're saying, writ large, because we have had bad interactions with some Trump supporters, we are going to blanket statement Trump supporters and write them off. We're not going to be doing maybe door-to-door assistance in ways that we would other groups. Weird. It's weird. It's wrong. And you know what? Remember when that was a conspiracy theory? That was the New York Times, worthy of a New York Times fact check? Come on. The media's utter lack of curiosity for this original story that FEMA was avoiding Republicans and avoiding Republican areas and avoiding Republican houses writ large, this was considered a conspiracy theory by mainstream media. And their lack of curiosity then bred people to witness one thing with their eyes and then be gaslit by a media echo chamber that refused to have any, like a modicum of curiosity could have cured this problem. And then, yes, that lack of curiosity has impacts. And the funny thing is that the mainstream media, they always want to blame it on right-wing influencers and right-wing media establishments or right-wing, independent creators like myself. It's not my fault for telling people's stories on the ground and what they are experiencing. And then the New York Times gaslighting it because it doesn't fit their narrative. And then people reacting to that gaslighting. That's not my fault. I'm telling the truth. You're not telling the truth. That's what irks me, is that somehow right-wing media is getting the blame right now for something that if the New York Times had had the decency to just have a little bit of curiosity for these people's stories instead of writing them off as crazy right-wingers, we probably wouldn't be in this predicament. But anyway, if you're a real one and you made it to the end of today's show, will you drop the cookie emoji because of all the milk and cookies that college crybabies are having, right? I hope you drop it because I think it's funny. Anyway, thanks, friends. See you back here on Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about how beautiful, stunning, and funny I am. And if you want more content based in logic, be sure to click over here for more videos and clips of my show. If you have the means to financially support the show, consider purchasing from my merch line, Based Apparel, linked right below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.